It is another Wednesday night, and that means it's time for another Auburn family night where we get together and the show is dictated by you. All things orange and blue, that is what's on the table tonight, and there are plenty of things to discuss in our weekly live call-in show. Let's get into it right now. A War Eagle Auburn family and a special War Eagle, and welcome to those of you that consider yourselves part of our E2C network family. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you are watching live, whether you are watching on the replay, however you got here, whenever you got here. We appreciate you being here and hanging out with us to be part of this little family within the Auburn family. As is the case every single Wednesday night here on YouTube since the dawn of time when you couldn't find a single Auburn person on YouTube, at least in a regular fashion. We've been doing this particular show where we talk to you, the Auburn family, directly. You get to pick what we talk about tonight. Anything and everything Auburn. Obviously, we'll be taking calls again tonight too. So that officially is your call to utilize the link in the very top of the YouTube chat. Now, if you are watching somewhere else, you will have to come to YouTube to access it. You click it, and then you can be on camera or off camera, talk to me live in person. I get to sit back and just listen. But join us if you'd like to in the chat as well. This is really just about you, the Auburn family. A couple things you can do for us. Smash the like button. Let us know that you're here. Also, make sure that you let us know that you're here in the chat with a War Eagle, where you're watching from. All that kind of stuff is helpful to kind of get you primed and ready to go for the evening's festivities. As you're coming into the stream, liking things, thinking about the topics that you want to hit tonight, let me do what I call setting the table for us. What are some of the prominent things out there that we discuss? I don't know. I mean, it could be just the breaking news of Keandre Lambert-Smith deciding he was going to be an Auburn Tiger. We have done a live stream reaction show just before this show, about an hour before it, where if you want just that type of content, that's going to be over there, where we talk about stats, we talk about facts, we talk about implications for Auburn for this season. Does it have implications for transfer portal recruiting upcoming? All of that's discussed there. We can talk about it here too, but we want to provide that exclusive content for you over there. That's on the table. More transfer portal talk. Been a big week for Auburn, so I would imagine that is high on y'all's priority list. Obviously, there's been some more discussion about who Auburn may or may not go get in men's basketball to continue filling out their roster. Spring sports are still continuing, but boy, is it not going well. So certainly we could talk about that too. Graduation is just around the corner. I know it doesn't seem like it, but it is. So for those of you that are students or no students that are tuning in, be thinking about that for them too. And yeah, I mean, there is still, as always, there's very few nights that I log in here to do a Wednesday night show and there's not plenty to talk about. And tonight's one of those cases too, where there is plenty to talk about. So you get to pick it. You get to pick the direction. The calls will also dictate where we're heading. So please do let me know what is most prominent on top of y'all's minds and where you want to start off. We got our first question. Is there any top quarterback targets right now for Auburn? He said top. So yes, top. Now, Rise Life, give me some clarification. I think I know where you're going. But are you talking about for upcoming seasons? You talking about transfer portal for this season? Give me some clarification on that, and we'll talk about it a little bit further. I think I know what you're implying and what you're asking. And I think if you've been here a while, you know where I'm going to go with this too, if that's the way you're asking it. Auburn's got a pretty full quarterback room right now. Will there be anybody that leaves as the spring portal continues to roll? Maybe. I think I could make a very strong case for all of these guys in this room to stick around. But yeah, I think you could. So you want to know, is there anybody in the transfer portal? Uh, my So when someone asks this, and you're not the first one, you won't be the last one. Usually that means they're not satisfied with Peyton Thorne, and I understand you on that. My assumption of how things are going right now is that the room is full, and until someone leaves, there's not necessarily a spot available for them. So I don't know that you're going to get a lot on that front until one of those things, like somebody decides to leave. But I can tell you this right now, Peyton Thorne ain't thinking about leaving. Marker White just got here, so I wouldn't think he's thinking about leaving. Hank Brown's kind of gone on the record in terms of him really liking where he's at right now, that being Auburn. Holden's kind of that wild card there. What happens with him? Does he feel like he's the, I want to say odd man out, because he is second in line in my eyes, but is he okay with being second in line for another season, or would he like to try his options in a smaller school to start right away? I think sometimes, especially as college football continues to change, we are living in a society that is very impatient. And I think some players are, NIL has helped us, but could do with being a little bit more patient. I think if Holden decides to stay, he will be the heir apparent for another year, or he would inherit the job if he continues to progress. So to me, I think he could potentially decide. His decision is one we're all kind of watching, and it could go either way. Until that point, to get back to the crux of your question, there's really no need to worry or focus on quarterback targets, because the quarterback room is full. And I get that most of the time, in the context of asking this question, most people, that's because they don't want Peyton Thorne to be the starting quarterback. But I will continue to maintain that we know very little compared to the coaches, and if they put him out there, then he's going to be the starting quarterback, and everyone needs to make peace with that in whatever way you can. I know in terms of quarterbacks for the upcoming year, there's this conversation around Julian Lewis, the USC commit. You guys know, most of you have been here for a while, notice I don't spend a lot of time talking about the decisions of 18-year-olds, but I know that's important to some of you, so that's at least why I bring it up. If you're wanting like energy, if you're wanting a talk about or something to focus on for future quarterbacks, then that's one that you would probably want to monitor. But I as I stress a lot of times, don't focus so much on the decision of 18-year-olds. It'll only make you upset. I promise. And the quarterback room is very full right now with, I think, 4 very capable guys. I've been very pleased with the way I felt. Am I going to say there's a Cam Newton in there? No. But do I think that they're all very capable of becoming reaching the potential they have? Yes. And so I think we are finally starting to put weapons, just what just happened today, Keandre, around them, the class that was just brought in. You know, the big question I think is still out there. Is this offensive line moving forward to protect these guys? And if it is, then that's a good sign for the offense in general, because all these parts, I know it seems redundant for me to say it, but then I watch some of our social media interactions and our things that I've seen on message boards before, and I just don't think people are willing to wrestle with the fact of how interconnected these things are on the offense. They just want a scapegoat, and it's always easy to blame the quarterback, especially if you don't already like him. So it's a all-encompassing thing. All these things have got to work together. But plenty of things to get excited about this week. A quick poll of the room. Did anybody expect four transfers to come in this week? Yes or no? Post in the chat right now. Was anybody expecting all 4 this week? And can I just point out, to quote Trevon Reed, we ain't done yet. Like, the week isn't over yet. I'm not saying there's more to come, but those were some of the big ones that were out there. I mean, a lot of people were paying attention to Keandre. A lot of people were paying attention to Joseph Bleedy, to Isaiah Rakes. So many people were focused on those. I don't still think that most people thought they were all going to happen. No, but I'm happy to have every single one of them. Yes. Always good feeling when someone chooses you in general, but filling positions of need, especially on the defensive. I've said that most of you guys have been here for a while to know, seen the even streams I've done this week. I've said this a bunch. It's still blowing my mind that those three defensive linemen that all came in with 24 hours of each other. It was so crazy. So crazy. Coordination may have been at play there, but that's still just crazy to think about. Excuse me. One great thing about Freeze is that as soon as he has a need somewhere on the team, he goes looking to get that position filled. And you corrected yourself there, filled quickly. Yeah, and I would also argue too that just because maybe you're referring to others that haven't in the past doesn't mean they weren't trying. They just weren't as successful like that. So maybe what we add on to your statement there is you go out and go after it, but you make it happen too. Like you're bringing it to the table. Hugh Freeze was known for his recruiting prowess. That was of all the big selling items for him, that probably was the biggest thing for Auburn in my mind. I could be wrong, but that to me is something that he had to sell on, but he had to deliver on right away. And boy, did he. And he's continuing to do that. So recruiting is not a problem for Hugh Freeze and maintaining that, but he's got to put the product that he's bringing in out there on the field now. And it's only year 2. So don't, I saw a post this week from a content creator. I don't know who it was to give it credit to, but was talking about, he didn't do a hot seat discussion, but he did something like who has the most pressure. And I thought that was a better way to phrase it because yes, some of those people that he mentioned would be on the hot seat, but others, it's just kind of, okay, you're in year 2. Now it's time. We need to see something moving forward. If you're Freeze and you look at last year, you're like, well, at least I've only got 6 wins last year. So it shouldn't be the most difficult to show progress, meaning 7+ wins. Hopefully it's many more than that. But I thought it was a very fair way of looking at it and not just calling it the hot seat thing. Because if he freezes on the hot seat, A, the program's in trouble, and B, we're just being stupid because we need some continuity at this point. But to say pressure, yes, the pressure is on. I would agree with that. Rise Life, I'm excited for Trent Seaborn in the future. He has my middle name. Well, there you go. Trent, I guess. Trent or Seaborn. You are deep into the recruiting stuff, my good sir. He's like 2027, 26, something like that. Might want to back off a little bit, Things can change so much over these seasons. But I don't know. Listen, I don't know what year he is. Like, I don't spend a lot of time focusing on them right now. Drew, we got his full name, Drew Seaborn Cutler. Now, I am going to be honest. I was shocked that your middle name was Seaborn. I thought for sure it was going to be Trent. You don't see that name at all, much less as a middle name. Very interesting. Okay. Do we still need offensive linemen? It's a good question. I don't think that we have lost. Let's pull it up. Let me just pull it up from one of the sites out there. Auburn transfer portal. Let's see who has or hasn't left recently. Most of them have been DBs, wide receivers, linebackers. Looking at it very quickly here. Oh, Kyle Vaccarella went into the transfer portal, long snapper, and I think maybe backup linebacker too. I didn't realize he had gone in there. Not that, I know that doesn't excite many of you to talk about, but the only, I'm looking to see when the last exit at the offensive line position was. It is not on this. So we haven't lost anyone to my knowledge that I've seen reported or seen on one of these sites on the offensive line. So my question to you is, why do you think that we need them? Or do you think that we need them? And I guess maybe you're asking me this too. To me, I haven't heard a lot of chatter about it out there, but maybe if someone decides they want to come over this direction, you take them. But the needs that we're talked about by Hugh Freeze were defensive line, and then wide receiver was mentioned too. And those have already done. Whoever brought it up earlier and talked about, wow, hey, the needs are there, and he does it very quickly. I mean, what, a week? Not even a week. When did the transfer portal actually open up? I can't remember. But yeah, we might take another tackle, Thomas says, depending on how the rest of the portal goes. You might see that. Yeah, you might. But I haven't heard a lot of chatter about it out there right now. But I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm some sort of insider and have got all the insights on the thing. I asked earlier, did anybody did you think that all 4 of these would happen this week? Did anybody see the Keandre decision today happening specifically today? Because I didn't see him announce, I'm making my decision on this day. Because usually that's when the buildup is to it. Did anybody notice that? Anybody? To me, it just all of a sudden just took off. And suddenly we're all talking about it in social media, and it became clearly evident that was something that was happening. The report is that the NIL discussions continue to happen throughout the day amongst both parties, being Auburn and Texas A&M. Obviously, Auburn won. But I didn't think it was going to be happening today, to be honest with you. I was actually out doing something, and I had to make the decision to come back because it looked like things were transpiring in that direction. That's how sure I was. But here's the crazy thing, though. And I joke about this a lot. So we've done this show, open mic, not open mic, but a call-in show for those that want to take advantage of it every single Wednesday night since before Auburn content creators started using YouTube regularly. And at least every other week, there's something crazy happening on a Wednesday before the show. I don't know. Monday is the big news cycle day. That's when you know that you kind of have to be available. Things are announced after the weekend and stuff like that. But apparently, Wednesdays is like the new thing for the surprise announcements. When did the Nike deal get announced? It was on a Monday. So, or was it a Tuesday? It wasn't on Wednesday. I know that. But it's just crazy to watch that pattern continue to transpire over time. Man, oh man, oh man. So much good stuff there. I'll switch gears a little bit until you guys have something that different you want to discuss. Where do you all think we're going to go with any more transfer portal stuff for basketball? If you guys have any thoughts on that, obviously there's the high point guard that's supposed to be visiting. I had someone today on TikTok suggest that LeBaron Philon would come back. Doubt that, but I could be wrong. Any thoughts on that? Unbeaten Lake says, it sounds like reporters are revealing where players are going before the players announce. It is becoming a new thing. Well, because the name of the game is you got to be the first to report it. And I say that as someone who broke a news story one time that ended up getting reversed and made us have a lot of egg on our face. But the name of the game is trying to be first to it. And if you get your little tidbit that you're sure about, you run with it and hope to goodness something doesn't fall flat on your face. And when it does, it ain't good. It ain't good. You got, well, never mind. I won't go down that path. Rise Live says, I heard Aiden Holloway is going to work at Waffle House after he loses to Auburn again. We hear a lot of things. I feel for Aiden Holloway because I feel like he's not aware of how much he's being used by Nate Oates in Alabama. 2, he is aware and he just doesn't care. I hope it's not the latter, but he is being used by Nate Oates. And I've said this on record. I'll make a bold prediction, and I don't know that it's that bold, that he will be in the transfer portal this time. Well, I guess a week ago when he announced this time effectively next year. And I don't wish that on him. I don't want him to have success enough to hurt Auburn or significantly help Alabama. But I don't know that I don't think he'll be there next year, is basically what I'm saying. Thomas says, I got to find my notebook. Y'all know when Thomas breaks the notebook out, that means he's going to call in and talk to us about offensive line. So he's gearing up. He's gearing up tonight. But we got to talk to him about defensive line, guys. I got to get his take on that too. Rise Life. I found an Auburn fan here in Indiana, and he had the nerve to say Indiana is better in basketball. Oh, so let's talk about the context of that. Indiana historically is far superior to Auburn in basketball, and there's nothing wrong in saying that. This year, if we talk about within the context of this year, he has no legs to stand on because we beat them. I mean, that's it. That's all you can go off of. We beat you in the one game that we played, and Indiana didn't even make the tournament, right? Yeah, because they almost lost their head coach. So this year, and for a while, we've probably been better than in basketball. But historically, we have not been better than Indiana. So I don't take super issue with that. All right, we got our first caller, so we'll take them in just a second. Woo, my voice is already starting to lose it tonight. You guys can call in too by hitting that link at the top of the YouTube chat, and we'll hang out with people as they call in. All right, first caller in, Mr. Kyle. What's going on? It's a good name, sir. Kyle. Hello. Make sure your audio is connected to it. If you can hear me, let me know. All right, Kyle, I'll take you off the screen for a little bit, and we'll pull you back on in just a second. See if you can work on your audio, and then we'll try it one more time. I do find when people try it for the first time, getting the audio connections all hooked up sometimes can be a little bit, you have to like select the right box and things like that. So we'll try him again in just a second. Device is disconnected now. So we'll see if maybe it's weird. Okay, let's try this now. Kyle?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Good, loud and clear. What's up?
Sweet, man. So, actually, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I talked to you on TikTok through your TikTok page, and we had a massive disagreement.
Oh, is
about
this?
Butch Thompson.
Yes, about Butch Thompson. I'm
And
so
I
glad
forgot
you
last
called
week
in.
to call you, and so I remember tonight, so I'm calling in.
Hey,
Man of my word.
Can I give you some props first?
Yes, go for it, buddy.
Many people, whether we disagree or disagree, will say they're going to call in and have these hot takes and stuff on the show, and they never do. So I want to give you props for being a man of your word and showing up to talk with me about this. So that's already, you've already got a win in the win column, sir. And you've got a good name too. So that's 2 win columns.
I know, right? Hey, and listen, at the end of the day, we may disagree on the Butch Thompson thing.
Yeah.
But we're still Auburn fans and War Eagle no matter what.
Course. So yeah, let's hit whatever you want to talk about. But if you want to talk about that too, let's just dive into it. You got the floor, sir.
Yeah, man. So like, here's my thing. Like, if you look at Butch Thompson's record at Auburn, he is under 500 in SEC play.
And have you looked at that completely to make sure that is
completely
accurate?
He is under 500.
Cool.
Everywhere he's been, I think, except for maybe one stop, he's been at 500 or barely above.
Mm-hmm. Let's look while you keep talking. I'm going to look up what I can find on him real quick just to get his full trajectory. But keep talking.
And so, here's my thing. You know, let's take off the World Series glasses for just a moment, okay?
Fair.
Because that is a great accomplishment to go 2 out of 3 years, okay? But in those tournament runs that he had, one, they got hot at the right time, which is a good thing. Do not hear me say that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing that you got hot at the end of the season and at the right time. But throughout those seasons, it was not great. They started SEC play terrible.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and I'm thinking about last year too, especially.
Yes. And, you know, you look at the SEC tournament, I think they've won one game maybe, and they're always an early exit. And I'm not saying that I think Auburn should be able to compete on the levels of Vanderbilt in this conference. We all know Vanderbilt runs the conference in baseball. And
yeah, they're there at the
and
conversation. Sometimes it's Florida, sometimes it's lately it's been Texas A&M, and well, now I'm just even thinking about Texas and Oklahoma coming in too. But anyway, your point stands. There's been other
historically,
people.
they're always up there. They're
Yeah.
always going to have a shot to win the conference title
Fair,
in the tournament. They're always going to be there. I'm not saying I don't think Auburn's ever going to be there. I think they could. But from what I have seen this year, I just don't think Butch Thompson's the guy.
Now, have you held that opinion outside of this year?
I have held that opinion outside of this year. Like I said, you take, like, for me, man, if you take the World Series off of it, would he still be at Auburn?
Do you think so? Let me walk that back with you a little bit. Do you think that when did you, in your mind, for you personally, just you personally, make the decision that he needs to go?
About 2 years ago.
About 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
that is if I have my timelines correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, that would be in the middle of the season. Well, the 3/4 of the way into the season before we went to Omaha. That's correct?
Right. Yes.
And so then he went on their hot, didn't do well in the SEC tournament, but went on their hot streak and made it to Omaha. And
yes.
So did that change at all after that?
Not really, because it's for me, it's the same song every year, and it happened again this year. It's before conference play, you start off really well, and then and I'll say this: if I have to give any leeway to Butch Thompson at the start of SEC play, they played, I think, 3 top 10 teams to start the series, start conference play. So, and I get those are good teams. They should beat Auburn, but the way that Auburn has lost this year is not, for me, a product of good coaching. I think it's not even thinking. The pitching this year is atrocious.
I won't argue with you there. That's awful. It's not going good.
No, I mean, there's games where Auburn can score 8, 9 runs, but when you give up 12 or 13, you're still not, it's like sometimes in games the bats can be hot, and then sometimes not, and that's just baseball. It doesn't matter who you are.
You can't expect everybody to be. You can't expect your offense to do the work every single game.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So, you say that he needs to go now, correct? Am I?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's my opinion. Yes.
Are you saying like in season needs to go?
I'm never a fan of firing a coach in season. Never a fan of it. I think that does too much turmoil to your program.
I agree.
Even though I think right now our baseball program is not in the best shape, I think if you fired him in the middle of the season, it would hurt it worse than it is right now.
I agree with you there.
And honestly, what do you have to lose? Just say they're getting ready to fire him. What do you have to lose right now to wait to the end of the season to fire him? You don't. You have nothing to lose. Just let them finish the season out. Auburn's not making the SEC baseball tournament right now. I mean, it's a very long shot that they will.
Right.
I mean, they're 2-18, 2-19, something like that in SEC play.
And it's only the 12 that make it, right? Am I correct on that?
I'm pretty sure it's the top 14. How many teams we got?
We got 14 in the league. We're about to have 16. But we got 14.
So it's the top 12 because the bottom 2 do not make it.
That's always what I understood. I just want to, things change so rapidly in college sports these years. I can't keep up with it. So yeah, I would say the way they're performing right now, they're not making the tournament at all. The SEC tournament, So okay, so we agree that the decision should not be made right now. I think there are times where no matter how much damage quote unquote damage it does to your team, there are times where firing in season is required. We've seen some cases of that because you need to start moving on direction. I guess my question to you would be a couple of questions. Who does Auburn need? Like who do they need to get? Because if you're going to say fire them, we're kind of almost having the conversation we had about Gus Malzahn. Well, let's fire him just because we're tired of it. But look what it got us. So who are you going to go get? Who are you going to go get? And who is the the better option out there.
I'll say this. I'm not a big I can't tell you many names that
Sure.
are in baseball coaches. But I'll say this: I think Auburn has enough money, especially with the NIL fund that they have coming in, that they can use to go get a really good coach.
NIL does not benefit the coaches.
I mean, I understand that. Understand that. But if what I'm saying is there's money coming in with Auburn left and right. Auburn's not a poor school by any means.
No, Yellowwood.
Right, exactly. Jimmy Raines is, I mean, he can fork it out, right? And so I think that Auburn can really honestly go and get anybody they want to.
Sure.
I mean, because baseball coaches, they're nowhere near what it costs for a football coach.
Yeah.
They're good coaches are lucky probably to make $1.5 million, $2 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, with all the renovations and improvements that they're doing to Plainsman Park, you want that filled up. And so you go I'll say this. I think if Auburn was to say go after Arkansas.
But did you know that they've had attendance records throughout this season and they've been breaking them even while this slump has been happening?
Yes, and I understand that. Like Tennessee, the was it Friday night game against Tennessee, they broke that record.
And I believe they broke it again on the Kentucky weekend. I could be wrong, but I mean, it feels like every time I open up my app, the only good thing I'm seeing from Auburn baseball is the attendance records.
Right, so. And I mean, yes. But the thing is, here's the way I look at it. Is it great to sell it out for a Friday night game? Absolutely. Do not hear me say that it's not.
Yeah.
But when you look at the Saturday and Sunday, or even sometimes the second game is on Fridays, because they sometimes start the games on Thursdays, the Friday night and Saturday afternoon games, the attendance is not there.
Mm-hmm.
It's always the first game. And your goal is to sell it out. I wouldn't say sell it out. I mean, that's your goal ultimately.
Right.
But to have a respectable attendance there.
Right.
And in the second and third games, Auburn's not there when it comes to the attendance. But getting back to Coach,
I would disagree with you a little bit. I think you and I we'd have to nail down what meeting the attendance expectations, because as you just admitted, it's not reasonable to expect that you're going to sell out every single game, but you should get close. And yes. I think you're going to find, if you look into it, that actually the second game of the week has been the more higher attended, because usually that's a Saturday and usually everybody's off. That's just by straight up nature of everybody being off of work and having more time, and weather factors into it and all that kind of stuff. But I guess let me get to, for those who need context, Kyle and I disagreed on our TikTok stream about whether or not he should be fired. And I get pretty fired up over this kind of stuff, because one question that I ask people a lot, and I'm going to ask Kyle this too: would you be willing to say this to Butch Thompson's face, that he needs to be fired?
Absolutely, I would.
You would. So you would walk up to the man and say, "Sir, you need to be fired. Will you please step down?"
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes. I mean, man,
really? Do you think that's a reasonable thing to do to somebody, especially I mean, I gotta question you a little bit on that. That's just not, it doesn't feel good.
I mean, if he was on your show right now, I would say, Butch, I think you're a great guy, but you're not the guy that I personally believe that should be running our program and is going to get it back in the right direction. So I think you should be fired.
Yeah.
I mean,
listen.
Hey, maybe he's watching this. I don't know.
Oh, if Butch is watching this, then I feel so honored, but I'm not that lucky. Well, listen, how about this? I'm glad that you will say that you're willing to say that to him. I would just ask you to consider what damage, and let's take you out of the equation.
Okay.
That anybody having an opinion like this, that I'm going to call for someone to be fired, especially publicly, the damage that not you specific, even though we are referencing you get what I'm saying,
right,
in any scenario that you personally are doing to the program. Now, your counter, and anybody's counter to that, would normally be, well, I'm just a fan. How many times have we seen comments come from people that decided not to come to Auburn because they saw the negativity of the fan base? And I'm going to tell you the opposite side. The swing on the other side, because they love the ferocity of it and the passion of it, it goes both ways.
Right.
But that is my biggest thing, that if you're going to say these things online, about people, be willing to say them to their face. But let's be real, you're never gonna get the opportunity to, just because he's a public figure. So it is very easy to say, right? You know, that you'll do that.
Absolutely.
But on the same token, I always encourage people to consider how you are damaging the brand and how you are potentially hurting this by calling for that. But I think when we get down to it, Kyle, he's not getting fired this year.
I mean, realistically, no. I think that they're going to hold. And here's my opinion: I think they're going to hold on to the 2 College World Series wins.
Sure.
And they're going to give him probably 2 more years out of this, right? That's what I honestly think is going to happen.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe next year he could change my mind about him.
Yep.
But my mind is made up that he just needs to be gone, and Auburn needs to rebuild a baseball program that is, in my opinion, in the shambles now.
I would disagree with you that it's in the shambles. I would agree with you that his biggest selling point is his pitching, because that he is a pitching coach, and when that is not there for you to fall back on. So let's use a comparison. Hugh Freeze, his staple is recruiting.
Yes.
If you don't show up and recruit, then what do you got to stand on? Especially if you're not producing stuff on the field. So you got to be able to, what your bread and butter is, be able to have something to show for it. And I would agree with you that the pitching, and now he has expanded responsibilities as a head coach, but that's got to be there for him to have the strongest leg to stand on. So I don't disagree that it is easier to make the case you're trying to make now. I just don't agree with the case. That's basically where I'm at.
And I mean, hey, man, that's why I feel, we're humans. We all have different opinions about the situation, and
love it. No, seriously, yeah. I'm so glad you called in. And first of all, it's always great to hear a new voice and a new perspective. So as I started out our call with you, I commend you for being willing to call in and stand by what you said. So that to me, and your name, I give you 2 wins in the column. Final thoughts from you, sir. We've got another caller on the line, but I don't want to rush off without you getting the final say.
All right. So one more thing, and then I'll let you go for your other caller. What do you think about Aiden Holloway going to Alabama?
Oh man, I think you've heard me talk about this a little bit on TikTok. I don't, and here too. If you've been over here, I'm not in the hate at Aiden Holloway camp. I almost just feel sorry for the kid. And I was talking about this a little bit before you called in, that I don't think he's either not aware of how much he's being used, or he is aware of it and he doesn't care, which that almost says a lot more or less about him. It's a bold move, not one that I think is wise.
No, and I don't think it's wise, because
it's bad.
When he comes back to the jungle next year, it's going to be bad for him.
Yeah. And, you reap what you sow sometimes.
Yeah. and last thing, honestly, if you look at his stats for the minutes he played, he was not good.
For one season, yes, he was not good.
Yeah, he was not good this year.
But some of that hype was built by us, by the fans. And that's where I kind of counter a lot of the talk of the hate on him. Is we built that up on him and had those expectations. Now it's kind of like Cam Coleman now. His story is building only by his own virtue of what he's done at A-Day and just it being such a beast of a specimen at a wide receiver. So he's not helping himself in terms of those expectations building. Aiden had that as well. My take on the Aiden situation is just not a wise choice.
Yeah. And well, Cam, hopefully this new transfer we got coming in, the number 1 transfer wide receiver, hopefully that'll take pressure off of Cam.
Yes.
Let him do his thing.
Yep.
And I think last thing, and I promise I'll let you go, is that I think this is going to be the best wide receiver core that Auburn has possibly had in a very, very long time.
I'll tell you, on speculation and paper alone, that's a very fair statement to make. We'll see what happens when we get on the field. It's going to be tough to beat that 2004 wide receiver group of Anthony Mix, Aroma Shadu, Obumanu, Courtney Taylor, and many others as well.
Yeah, that's it. Like I said, that's why I said years, because you cannot forget about the 2014.
Such a good group. Such a good
group. Special team. Both sides of the ball.
Hey, Kyle, man, appreciate you calling in. Don't be a stranger. Call in whenever you like.
All right, buddy. Hey, War Eagle.
War Eagle, bud.
All right, see you.
See you. All right, we'll get our next caller in here in just a second. You guys can get in line too and talk about anything and everything that you'd like to talk about. We just spent a whole about 20 minutes talking baseball, and this is during a time when baseball is not doing well. So this is what this show is about. Get your stuff out that you want to talk about, whether we agree or disagree. I love seeing y'all's faces, hearing your voices. This is what this Wednesday night's all about. All right, familiar face. He's all about the notebook. He's all about the big hog mollies across the line. You know him, you love him. There he is, Mr. Manville. What's going on, sir?
How are y'all this evening, War Eagle?
War Eagle to you, buddy. How you doing?
And I'm doing great. It's what a couple days for Auburn.
Did you see this coming, man? Like,
no,
just the time, you know.
No, I didn't see it coming at all. But I've loved every second of it, man. This is great news across the board.
It is. It is very good news. It is so nice to see a need be said out in the open and it just to be filled so quickly. And not to say that just because it got filled quickly, it was done right or wrong. It's just refreshing to say, we need defensive linemen. Okay, one less than a week later, go get them. And here they are in 24 hours. We think we need another pretty prominent, experienced target at wide receiver. Okay, here he is. You know, like just awesome.
It's, I mean, what the coaching staff and the athletic staff in general, because there's a lot of people behind the scenes, but man, what they've done since the end of last season, since the end of that Maryland game, that was just it. Never mind. What they've done is they talked about what they needed. They needed defensive linemen. They needed a little bit of help on the O-line, and they needed receivers. And they brought in 2 receivers that I can remember right off and 2 interior defensive linemen right there before spring even started. And then after spring, they said, let's grab another 1 or 2 or 3 of these. Got an extra edge guy as well, because maybe they felt good coming out of the season at edge. We had one enter the portal, but I'm not –
but you lose one. You lose one. You need to pick up one if you can, just for numbers' sake. So that, you know, that to me alone, that's a win. Just filling that spot.
Yeah, it's all about depth at every single position except for some specials. But I mean, it's all about depth. You've got to have enough pieces because somebody's gonna get hurt at some point. You got to have enough pieces to plug these holes, and you got to have guys that can go in there and take a couple of reps, get 10, 15 snaps a game to give some of these other guys a breather. It's just part of the game.
Yep. I agree. I think if there's check. Okay. I think I'm back. I bumped the mute button. It even sounds like I'm back now. I'm being too active with my hands right now.
Technology, man, it's terrible.
That's just user error. That ain't even technology. Hey, I'm the first one to blame technology. Y'all seen my lights go off here and I'll get mad about it too. That was just me being an idiot. So
you knock a phone down in the middle of a video call.
Oh, Austin, jeez. Were you watching that live when Austin did that?
I was, and I felt so bad for the guy because it was like 3 or 4 weeks before that happened to me. And I just went, oh, buddy. Oh, man.
I know that pain. I still to this day like hope that something like that will happen again so I can rerun it. I have like a reel of him losing control over his camera and all that stuff. Anyway, you said you got your notebook. What's in the notebook? What do you want to talk about?
Just do some. Well, before I hit the notebook, I want to say I think it was Wilkerson, the guy that just called in.
Yeah,
that was a great call. I enjoyed every minute of that because I'm not really a baseball guy. But I got to see 2 different perspectives, and I've followed it loosely this year. And yeah, it don't look good, but hats off to the guy. He owned up to his word. He called in, and he talked exactly what was on his heart. So
listen, that gets people that gets my respect instantly. If you'll put your voice, your face behind the things that they're said on social media, and even if I vehemently disagree with what you're saying, at least you showed up. So that gets me respect.
Hats off to that guy. That was a good call. That was really enjoyable to listen to. The transfers we got in, receiver, we just talked about it an hour ago, give or take. Well, almost 2, I guess.
At this point, yeah.
Man, that's a big pickup right there, man. we went and got two of them in the before spring. Now we got a third one. I think all three of them are going to contribute. There's no, why are you going to bring them in if you're not? And my goodness, sorry, I had a notification jump up.
I thought you were flicking a fly there or something like that. Should have flicked me.
No, not yet. I still got screens on these windows. But I was in another group chat earlier, and people were talking about Mr. Yellowwood or Mr. Yellowfella and all that. That pressure treated pine just beat out oil money today, buddy, and that's good stuff.
Is that not awesome? I mean,
right.
I don't think people grasp this enough. Like, when you talk about NIL, people are going to just assume Alabama, Georgia, because they're the big name. Folks, Texas oil money, like Texas ranch money. Texas is, everything's just bigger there. Like, they got tons of money, and which is why it's so mind-boggling that Jimbo Fisher got what he got and could not make some semblance of it. So the fact that Auburn went toe-to-toe in NIL money with, and of course we're assuming this, but it's pretty fair assumption, and beat out Texas A&M, that cannot be understated.
Yeah, and you brought up Jimbo Fisher, so I got to say it because I can't not. And I believe it was on one of these live streams after he got hired, and I'll have to do a deep dive, but I made the point that Jimbo Fisher cannot win without an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
He can't do it.
Yeah.
Because the only time he's ever been efficient at winning is when he had an elite quarterback that he could just say, here's a ridiculous playbook, just go get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He can't do it. So, and they probably should have seen that coming. I don't know. Maybe there was too much oil in their eyes. I don't know. They should have known ahead of time, and they dug that hole, and they just dug themselves out of it with a lot of oil money. Yeah. And then they had a lot of oil money sitting there, and the rest of the Auburn faithful and Mr. Yellowfella and maybe the governor, Kay Ivey, because she's an Auburn graduate. I don't know. Somebody sent some dollars in this afternoon.
Good old Governor Meemaw, just being a high stepper and you know, for her alma mater. Now, she hurts me every time she says the other one, just to be fair, and it hurts me a little bit every time. But anyway, we love Governor Meemaw. This is somewhat related to having you here because I know we talked about, you were mentioning in the chat a little bit. You know, can we talk about who's going to be Auburn's next transfer? This is from David on X. You think maybe there's going to be another offensive tackle out there? What do you think?
If we lose a guard, I'm not concerned at all because we have a plethora of guys that are built like offensive guards. If we lose someone that's built like a tackle and can play tackle for us, I think we need to replace that quicker than anything else. Outside of that, I don't want to say expect, but I'm leaning towards getting another defensive back due to the depth pieces that have left. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily starters and contributors, but depth pieces because there's going to be injuries. It's just part of it.
I was really disappointed to see Colton Hood leave.
Man.
Legacy guy, man. And that again, I'm not saying that has to be the ultimate reason you stay or go or whatever, but you know, they're just such cool stories when their legacy carries over with them here. But I wish him well, and I hate that it couldn't work out. I wish there'd been a little, maybe I say like I know what their priorities are, like a little bit more patience on their part. And I think they would have eventually found time here. But you know, from the sounds of it, that DB room is looking pretty good considering what we lost.
Well, over the last years, the last two previous defensive coaching staffs really have done a really good job of, bringing in great pieces to fill needs at that position that have worked out great for us. We got a lot of guys that are in the league right now that play DB or safety at Auburn. And we don't have as many linebackers as I'd like, but I really think that could change over the next year and a half, 2 years. But they've done a great job of bringing in what we need. And depth is one of those things. You know, it takes a lot of energy to run that much. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of energy to play a sport in general, except like maybe golf or something. But it takes a lot of energy.
The golfers you just fired up now. Oh, we're going to get it now.
Hey, look, man, I can knock it 250 with a wedge, but I don't know where it's going. So I'm out on golf. But It's crazy. Like, they've done a great job of bringing in the right guys in the DB rooms. So we need to continue that because we've had fairly solid defensive backfield over the last 5-6 years, and then some sparse years here and there. But we've done well. But up front in the trenches is where we have suffered. Except for, you had your Derek Browns, you had your Marlon Davidsons, your Mon Adams, your Jeff Hollins, and I'll go all the way back to Quentin Groves, who's probably my all-time.
Austin,
Austin, D Ford, because I blocked D Ford when I was a senior in high school and he was a freshman, and I'm so glad that I graduated because that next year it would have been bad.
Woo! I'm just imagining that picture right now.
Yeah, because he was what, 6'2", 240 something?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, as a senior in high school, I was 5'7", 220 blocking him, and it was easy.
Hey,
next year I would have gotten run over.
Don't knock yourself. If little Sean Shivers can run over McKinstry or whatever his name was, you gotta have a little pop to be able to do that. But when that little bowling ball just took him out, oh man, the noise that was made in that stadium was crazy.
Football is a violent game, and sometimes helmets get cracked.
Jeez, or just fly 50 yards the opposite direction you just were heading. So, all right, I got time for a few more comments. We got one more caller who's on the line, but I want to rush off without you getting your say in. So, what else you got?
Okay. Real quick on the notebook. So, the last time that Auburn brought in 4 or more linemen in one recruiting class was 2015. Pitiful.
That's real?
Pitiful. That's a real stat. Check it. That's real. That is awful. So therefore, all of our woes at quarterback and everything, if nobody's going to block for you, you're not coming to play here. And then you're not coming to play if the guy that's throwing it to you he's running for his life. Bo Nix. You don't get guys you need. So we transferred guys in that we went, oh, please help. Well, Freeze and his staff are different.
Yeah.
I think our starting 5 left to right is Percy Lewis, Dylan Wade, left guard. Connor Lew clearly is going to be the center. I think it's going to be Jeremiah Wright at that right guard and Xavier Too-Tall Miller left guard. Xavier Too-Tall Miller at that right tackle.
I was with you. I was tracking.
I'm tumbling here. You still got Tate Johnson, Braden Joyner, EJ Harris, Jaden Muskrat, Dylan Sendo, which transferred in last year. And I'm really high on that kid. I think he's great. And Tyler Johnson, who made some pretty good waves, made a lot of noise in spring. The 2024 class, you've got Seth Wilford, Favor Edwin, and DeAndre Carter. And I really want to see DeAndre Carter play. That kid's huge.
He's a big one.
And then 2025, you've got Tavares Dice, Carday Smith, Ty Buster, great name, and Spencer Dowling. So they just keep stacking what we know so far on paper and film, quality guys to keep this thing going. You can't have a bad year at offensive line and expect you could put Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush behind 2 years ago's offensive line, and they wouldn't have won 7 games. They just wouldn't.
Well, it also have games taken away by Reggie Bush, but apparently that doesn't matter anymore. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, you teed me up for that one.
But no, you have to have consistent, great offensive lines and defensive lines to win games.
Right.
Look at just the teams that were in the playoffs the last couple of years, and your New Year's Six. Yeah, Michigan won the award for best offensive line, not the Outland, Joe Moore Award 2 years in a row. Still didn't win the national championship, but they didn't have 3 incredible skill guys, a top 10 quarterback and a top 10 running back. They had a great, solid offensive line. They had a pretty good defensive line. You look at some of the championships that we've watched Georgia play in and win. They had 3 or 4 draft picks off of both sides of the ball on the line alone, and then you had some linebackers and some skill guys. But Hugh Freeze and staff and everybody down there in Auburn they're just doing it. They're doing the dang thing, man. They're getting the right guys in there, and they told us when they got there it's going to take a little bit of time.
You might say they got the message to just do it. I don't know. Something about that rings true lately. So
I'm picking up what you're putting down. Well played.
Something like that. I mean, we've been trying to protect this house for a while, but it's time now just to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
Don't open that can of worms tonight, but we'll or I guess we can if somebody else wants to. But Thomas, it's always good to hear from you, buddy, and hear your perspectives from the notebook.
Yes, sir. I got to get a new one. This one's getting real thin. And we're coming up on off season. I got some work to do.
You do, sir. Thank you for calling in, bud.
All right, War Eagle. Y'all have a good night.
You too, man. War Eagle. All right, we'll get our next caller here in just a second. We are having a good group of calls tonight, so we will go a little bit longer tonight. I'll stay on for comments and questions, too. I know I haven't addressed a ton of y'all's comments and questions, but I think we've covered the majority of the ones that y'all have brought up. But keep them coming in the chat, and once we get done with our next caller or the next, if we get some more in, we'll keep going. This is y'all's night. This is what this is. Okay, sorry about that. That was user error once again. I am messing up my microphone tonight, and yes, everything's fine. Before I mess it up again, let's get our next caller in. One of our familiar guys, Mr. Optimism. Kevin, what's going on? Are you there, buddy? Kevin?
Yeah, War Eagle.
Oh,
War
I got to
Eagle.
switch you over. War Eagle, how you doing, buddy? I got to switch you over to this for my benefit. Why is it not? You can keep talking, Kevin. It's just not coming out of the right headphones for me, but you can keep talking. What's on your mind?
Who was the wide receiver we got from the transfer thing?
Who was the wide receiver we got from the transfer thing? That is Keandre Lambert Smith from Penn State. He committed. How about that? He did commit. How about that? I'm going to switch this over. I know a lot of people. Let me switch this over real quick. All right. Let's see if I can actually hear. What's that?
Guess how many touchdowns Cam Coleman will have this coming season?
I bet it's going to be somewhere in the ballpark of 10 for you.
28.
28 touchdowns is what you're calling for?
Yeah. Then
my goodness.
DeQuez Hunter will have 27, and Perry Thompson will have 26.
Okay. Well, somehow I think that might be a little bit of a stretch, but if that happens, we're gonna have a really good year. Yeah. I don't know. It might be a little bit of a step out, Kevin, but hey, you are Captain Optimism, and so I will take that over negativity any day of the week. So I appreciate that. But you didn't know that Keandre had committed?
No,
man. We gotta. Were you busy tonight? Were you at church or something?
Yeah, I was at church. That's how come I called late.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all right. You know, as long as you get in tonight, that's it. And the church is important. You got the Braves on. Yep. You missed having Josh Donaldson as part of the Braves.
And number 18.
Who you wearing 18 for? Seth
Williams.
But not Cody Burns?
Cody Burns.
Just whoever I say. I don't know who's got 18 anymore, but 18 will always have a special place in my heart for Cody Burns. I am a big-time Cody Burns fan. What you got there?
DeQuez Hunter hat.
Now his is a little bit like formed, so you might have to kind of, you know, work with the bill a little bit, get it just like his, and then say I'm a twinsy with you when you see him at Tiger Walk.
And I hope Auburn baseball team go down to LSU this weekend and beat them 3-0 in baseball.
Listen, I hope so too, but I'm not hopeful for it. I'll tell you that much. It's going to be challenging, to say the least, for them to be able to go to LSU. Now, if LSU was at home, Auburn can do anything at home, and I would say that they could probably get a win or two, maybe even 2 out of it. But down there is going to be tough, Kevin. That's asking a lot.
Yeah.
But
and I think,
go ahead.
And I think Auburn softball team is doing real good.
They're doing okay. They've had better seasons, but hey, we're hosting the SEC tournament this year. Did you know that?
Yeah, I'm going to it.
Oh, you are going to go to it. Okay. Well, I am actually going to be out of town for that.
I'm going to the SEC baseball tournament at Hoover too.
You're going to go to that. So you're just going to hit all the things.
Yeah.
Now Auburn's got to make the tournament first, or else you'll be watching everybody else have success. But sounds like you've got a busy next couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, am I going to get to see you this year on campus for Tiger Walk? Oh, what you got there? Is that what is that?
That's my mask.
Oh, that's your mask. Okay, gotcha. I was like, what?
In case we might need it this year.
For what for? For pollen?
No, for COVID.
Well, don't wish that back on us, buddy. Don't wish that back on us at all.
Because.
But hey, that looks pretty cool. All right, Kevin, how about this? Let me who do you think is going to be the next commit? Let's finish our call with that. Who do you think is going to be the next commit, or like what position do you think is going to be the next transfer commit?
It won't be it will be a transfer commit from Texas to Auburn.
What position though? What position you think is going to be the one that
quarterback?
Yeah, so you think we're getting a transfer portal quarterback?
Yeah, KJ Lacey.
KJ Lacey. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see if that happens. You
hey,
might be.
I'm the first caller on 3. Auburn on 3. Jeffrey Lee and Cole Pinkston. I'm Kevin from Wilmer, Alabama. I started a show off every week.
Well, awesome. And you're finishing ours out tonight, so that's a good way to, have a beginning and an ending there. So, Kevin, it was good to hear from you, buddy, and good to talk to you about things. Glad we got to talk to you about Keandre and get to break the news to you. So it's not often I get to break news for you, but it's good to hear from you.
I have to call all my Auburn buddies, tell them.
You got to tell everybody, man. So get on that right now. Get on that right now.
War Eagle, right. Talk to you later.
All right, Kevin. Thanks for calling, buddy. War Eagle. Bye. All right, that was Kevin. We saw some regulars. We had some new callers tonight. I can leave the phone lines open for like a few more minutes if anybody wants to take advantage of them. Let's get some last-minute comments, questions, and derogatory rebuttals in tonight. If you haven't had an opportunity to have your specific question, your topic, your interest discussed tonight. I mean, we've hit a lot tonight, to be honest with you. We spent a lot of time talking about Auburn baseball, which I didn't think would happen. So anything is fair game tonight. And it doesn't even have to be sports related. If you can relate it back to the orange and blue, it's what we do. It's the most cheesy saying I have, but it's the most true saying I have. While you're thinking about those final things, let me remind you of a couple things. This is key. This is our next scheduled live stream. Scheduled is the key term. Episode 76 of the banner flagship show of E2C Network, The Auburn Experience. Sports, culture, and family. Austin and myself will be back in the saddle Sunday at 9 Eastern time to talk about that Auburn experience. And we hope that you'll be able to join us live here on YouTube for that. Join the chat. Watch the show, hang out with each other, and we'll talk a little bit before and after to you, the audience, as well. That is the scheduled events coming up. Of course, another one of these shows next week as kind of a preparing you for the future. I will be going on. I will have a little bit of a challenging schedule next week. So I plan to do this show again next week, but there's a chance things may go awry. So just be flexible with that. And I will be going on vacation the week after that. So be expecting a little bit of delay in content during those times. But for now, we are on this schedule. Stay tuned, stay subscribed, be following on social media, because the reality is we'll be going live if more breaking news happens. I think a lot of the big things within basketball and football transfer portal have already taken place. Doesn't mean that they're done, but there's still plenty of opportunities that we could be getting back together, even outside of our regular Wednesday and Sunday shows that we typically do outside of vacation and things like that. So all of that is still on the table. Let's take some final thoughts, questions, comments. Unbeaten Lake says, do we have flipping? What chance do we have at flipping Julian Lewis? The receiver room could help, but getting him away from Lincoln Riley will be hard. there's always a chance, right? Anytime you can make, I don't know that necessarily the wide receiver room, the way it looks right now, is going to help, but the way they might look at the end of everything would be the biggest help. It just depends on Hugh Freeze is a really good salesman, really good recruiter, and he sold the final season for Lambert Smith to be used here at Auburn, and that is quite a task with NIL and everything else. So to me, if he can do that, he can pull off anything. So there's obviously an opportunity to do something like that. I know we've talked about tailgating in a recent podcast. I spent many Saturdays on the lawn at Cary Hall as a child. Great memories. Oh, man, we're going to get some nostalgia going here. I wish I could remember where exactly, I believe it was on campus, that we used to always go with these family friends. And it was like this little, it wasn't a park, but it was like this little fenced off section that was like on this hill. And we would like tailgate at the bottom of the hill, but like the kids would run up on there before games and throw football and run around and be crazy and stuff. And I just, you want to talk about what they call core memories? That's one of those things that never stick. Is the feel in the air, the chill. It was like, it wasn't cold, but there was a coolness in the air. The smells, the sounds of tailgating, and leading up to the excitement of the game. Those are things that never escape out of here. And obviously it was even more special because it was my family with my dad. And yeah, so that'll bring it out, man. That'll definitely bring it out. We used to park over on Old Frat Road a lot. And I don't believe that's where I was just referencing, but like when I was older and knew my way around campus and stuff, that's where we used to park. And then fraternities started being fraternities. So we had to move parking spots, and they're nowadays there's not much closer, but we'll start talking about some of these things as we get closer to the season. I wonder what changes they'll make this year to parking, to timelines, to logistics of getting in. They continue to make it harder and harder and more expensive. I had to change my strategy this year. Thankfully, we seem to have gotten that figured out. But so it doesn't change my love for being on campus and being around the Auburn stuff. All right. We're going to call it a show, folks. Thank y'all so much for being here, hanging out with me, spending some time being a part of this little family within the Auburn family. Good callers tonight, good topics, variety of topics. This is what this show is about. So the only request I have for you as we end is, if you haven't and we've earned it, smash that like button. If you can, come back. If you're not a regular here, we'd love to have you back. If you're a regular here, tell a friend, drag them here against their will. I'm kidding, but get them here if you can. Let's continue to build this little family within the Auburn family. And I appreciate you all so much for hanging out with me this evening. Until I get the chance to talk to you again, my friends, War Eagle.